Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight is Monday, November 8th, 2010. It's on or about 7 p.m. and this evening City Council is meeting in a series of committee meetings, starting with the Transportation Committee. Committee Chair, Chris Knisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 3 items tonight. The first one being information here with a guest presenter, who is Carolyn Conley, who is the new coordinator for what's called the Go Bus system. And some of you may have seen the press for this. I'm not sure if it'll show up on the camera or not, but Go Bus, and you can go to Columbus and Cincinnati, round trips made twice daily. And we have bus stops that have been coordinated on OU's West Green and also at the Athens Community Center. And we have ticket purchase available online now. So Carolyn's welcome, and if you'd like to come up to the table and tell us a little bit about
Sit here if you
the
want,
new
or
program.
Go to the podium, your choice.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Didn't
Thanks.
work in there, sorry. Should have known by the last name. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I see.
And as Chris said, my name's Carolyn Conley, and I'm the new Go Bus manager at Hocking Athens Perry Community Action. And hopefully you all know a little bit about the project. It's a new transportation initiative that's expanding the current intercity bus project. The current project ran from Athens to Columbus, and this one now is running from Athens to Cincinnati as well. And both routes are running twice daily. And the exciting part about all this is that the fares are only $10 plus tax for one-way trips. It's been a collaborative effort between all partners, including the city and HABCAP. The expanded project was launched on November 1st, just this past Monday, and it's done very well in its first week of operation. Unfortunately, we don't have any of the figures from the week yet, but I do know that on the first day of the run, there were 24 passengers on the Columbus route alone. And then yesterday, one bus from Cincinnati to Athens, the 11:30 bus, had 18 passengers on it. And my understanding is this is actually better numbers than the previous intercity project, so we hope to continue with those numbers. We've also gotten a lot of positive feedback from the public, particularly on Facebook. We've been trying to do some social networking, and people are really excited about it. We've gotten a lot of praise for the price. People are excited to use it, particularly to go to the airport, things like that. We have gotten a few negative comments as well, but I think that's just kind of the nature of things. You're bound to get a couple, but like I said, most have been very positive. A quick history on the project. Work had started about a year ago, and I came on in the summer, and that's kind of when HABCAP really got their steam rolling on the project. And since then, we have developed a new image and a new marketing campaign for the program. Some of that you can see in the brochure. We selected a service provider, which is Lakefront Line, so they're continuing their service. They were the ones that were doing the Athens to Columbus route before. We established stop locations. Some are ones that Lakefront has been using before, but some are brand new, so we're excited to have them on board. And several of these locations are also selling tickets for us, and we hope to add more places to sell tickets as we go along. We have a new website developed and new marketing material out in the public. We've also run numerous ads. Chris showed you guys one in a lot of local papers here, and we're going to be doing more advertising in the stops between the cities, between here and the cities. But what does this mean for the Athens region? Well, we've been working very close with the city of Athens, Paula Mosley, Charlene Moeller, the mayor. We've also been working closely with the community center staff, the Athens Mobility Coordinator, Lance Repp, who is also one of my co-workers. And what we've really been trying to do is keep the residents of Athens and Southeast Ohio in mind while we're planning this smooth transition and expansion of service. We think the Go Bus is another piece to solve the puzzle, solve the trouble with the transportation in the area. It offers greater opportunity to travel to urban centers and beyond. So people can get from Athens to Cincinnati and Columbus, but the idea behind the project is to make meaningful connections, both with Greyhound lines, Port Columbus Airport is one of the stops, and other local transportation hubs. It's also bringing money into the region. We're using local businesses for printing, marketing, website development, and some construction work. Where we'd like to see the project go from here. In 2011, as many of you probably know, we have 3 brand-new buses coming in. The city's going to own these buses. They are going to be really top-of-the-line buses. They are 45 feet long. They can carry up to 55 passengers. They have Wi-Fi, internet, and outlets at every seat. So we're really trying to promote first-class amenities for first-class travel. We're going to continue to promote the service, kind of like I had mentioned. We're going to really start targeting some of the towns in between here in the near future. And we want to increase the ridership and really work towards making the program more self-sustaining. In your packet, I kind of have attached a schedule for both routes, a brochure, and my business card, so hopefully that'll help you guys a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I have most of it already.
Yeah, and the schedules did change as of Friday just a little bit, so you might want to double check if you had looked at it before, that 5-10 minutes here and there. And tomorrow we have a rollout event at the Athens Community Center on East State Street, so hopefully I'll see some of your smiling faces there, and that's at noon. And of course, if anyone has any more questions, we do have our website, which is ridegobus.com, and our toll-free number, which is 888-95-GO-BUS.
You said you had a Facebook site?
Yep.
What's the name of that? Go Bus or something different?
Yeah, it's just Go Bus, I believe, and I'm embarrassed
wondered.
to say I'm not really sure.
Okay.
It's our Vista volunteer that's been operating it. She's been doing a great job. She's quite witty, and she's had some great conversation with people.
Any questions?
Chris mentioned that there's a site on West Green also.
Yes. And that's
Where's that?
Grosvenor. Is it Grosvenor Hall?
That was Peter Stadium.
Yeah, it's right behind the Conva there on West Green Drive. I'm trying to remember and I just kind of was clued into exactly where it is. Is it the orthopedic building?
It's the osteopathic
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's right in front of there. And we will hopefully be getting a sign up in the next week, because that's one spot that I think will be heavily used, and there is some confusion about it. So hopefully the next week or two there will be a sign up.
That would make it really easy for students. And as I understand from the schedule, too, on the Cincinnati route, is this the one that has an early return from Cincinnati?
It does start at 4 a.m.
Back to Athens, so that if people wanted to be back for an early morning class here in Athens, they could still come back on the bus sometime. Yes.
One thing I'm really excited about is the Columbus Airport connection. As somebody that's found himself having to pay the $100 before for somebody to take you to the airport, which was the only option you could do until now. And let's see, one time I parked in the garage for a European trip, and it was over $200 to park your car there. In Cincinnati, on this last trip I took, I was gone 17 days, and it was a shuttle ride way out there somewhere, and that was $138, I think. So, the savings in the parking amount that somebody could do, and at the time that you can arrive there, you can still make very good connections. I've done a lot of searches lately. I found myself flying to Atlanta quite often recently, and I think that's going to work out well. The only thing I would suggest possibly in the future, a lot of international flights go out of Cincinnati. The last 2 that I've been on did, but there's no stop at the Cincinnati airport. Is that anything that you think there would be a demand for?
In Kentucky.
I mean, we're considering all possibilities right now. We'd really like to expand the service and make it meet people's needs. But yeah, the Cincinnati airport is kind of...
It's certainly in Kentucky, yes.
Yeah. But
And-
if there's a
and it's
need, if we
ways
hear
out.
enough feedback, I don't see why we couldn't strive to make that happen.
Well, I think the times, it's very quick, and it's about an hour and 40 minutes. You're not going to do a heck of a lot better than that if you drive yourself.
Yeah.
And the last bus I was on, it seemed that you stopped everywhere along the line, and it would add an hour or so to the trip anyway, and you guys are doing it in almost the same amount of time someone would do it in a car. So it looks like it's going to be a great service.
Realize this is actually, I look at it in terms of, with the new buses and the Wi-Fi, you'll be able to have productive time
Yes.
on the bus, not just staring at the road. And this is all new, so there will be some shakeout time on it. The Department of Transportation is very willing to help us and make this a success. And I think that was communicated to everybody. So,
Yeah.
So when we talk about getting feedback one way or the other, that's important too. So we'll see how it goes.
And I do want to mention, too, the Lakefront has, because we're running Lakefront buses right now, and they have added Wi-Fi internet connection to their buses. So people who get on tomorrow can get access to the internet.
Any other comments or questions?
Again, this makes us more connected as a community to the rest of the world. I mean, it's just not going to Columbus, it's going to every Greyhound bus station in the United States, too. So that gives us the ability to get on a bus and go wherever we want to go.
Well, thank you, Carolyn, for coming tonight, and thank you for being on board and part of the program, and we're excited to see this happen.
Yeah, and if anyone has any more questions, you have my card. Please feel free to call or email me. I'll be happy to get you whatever answers I
Or
can.
show up tomorrow, 12 o'clock.
Yeah, there you go, or show up tomorrow at noon. That's right. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. The second item on the transportation agenda for tonight is to let council members know that we will have an ordinance next week for disposal of a vehicle. And this is a 1995 Ford Ranger that has come to us because of it being impounded or forfeited. And so we are in possession of it, and it is not a usable car. So I'll bring that forward.
Also, was a discussion about amending the one for the buses in terms of the scrap? Were you in that conversation?
No, I
Okay.
was not part of the conversation, but
Okay. The auditor basically was looking at the two Gilligs, which we still have, which we put out for sealed bid. Went out there looking for somebody who wanted to buy two junk buses. It got down to nobody really was interested. We advertised. We decided, okay, let's contact the local scrap yard to get rid of them. It was pointed out by the auditor that there's nothing in the ordinance about getting rid of them that way. So I think it's more like a technicality, but we may want to go back and revisit that and just amend that.
okay.
I think it's kind of, I'm sure I could get McGee Scrap to put it in an envelope and make it a sealed bid, but really the whole process, you'd have to put it out there again as an advertisement and come back.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update on that.
Okay.
We'll take care of that next week as
Minor,
well. Okay. And I have one miscellaneous item, and that is to thank the voters in Athens for approving the street rehabilitation levy. And we've seen so many projects move forward in the past few years, and as Public Works Director Andy Stone would say, we have many more projects than we have the money to pay for, so I think the street levy money will be carefully used and well used for the many projects we have in the city, so thanks to everyone. Any other miscellaneous items for transportation? Okay.
The Planning and Development Committee Chair, Chris Ball.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one item on my agenda for tonight, which is actually an agenda item to put it onto the next agenda for the committee meeting. It's been recommended by the City Planning Commission to change the lot Title 23 bulk controls and lot coverage in our zones, R1, R2, and R3. And I would like to bring it, have the discussion mostly on the next committee meeting, 22nd of November, because Paul Logue is going to bring a presentation about why it's needed and what the impact will be on the city.
So people are forewarned.
Forewarned, 22nd of November.
I
Very good.
assume that this will require a public hearing on the council's part. It is in the zoning
Yes.
code, so that's one thing to start thinking about addressing or setting up the date. Paul gave a pretty good presentation to the Planning Commission.
And he'll give the same presentation here.
Okay. He'll probably add your lots just because he covered everybody of the Planning Commission's lot in terms of total coverage.
My tiny, teeny, tiny little lot.
Yes. Well, again, this is to overlap with the 30% in R1 of the footprint of the house plus footprint of impermeable surfaces. And this is in anticipation eventually with stormwater runoff issues. But it starts the conversation going and the planning on it.
Yes. So I request a time slot on 22nd of November. Set up the public hearing? Oh, I guess we could. Yeah. So can you set up the public hearing too, please? Thank you. And I have no miscellaneous.
On to the Environmental Committee. Committee Chair Oahu Gosney.
Thank you. I'll be relatively quick tonight. There's one item that came up recently that I started working on. I wanted to sort of inform council of and the administration and solicit feedback. And I'm just in the early stages of researching this. So a few weeks ago, we passed the energy efficiency ordinance that would allow perfection groups, some perfection groups proposed measures to be undertaken by the city. And I was thinking of, the age of the community center. It's not that old of a building, but it wasn't built with energy use in mind. And so something that I'm looking at is what other cities have done to make sure that their future construction projects are done taking that into account. One of the most popular sort of frameworks that's used is something called LEED, which several of you have probably heard of. Architects are certified in LEED design. Other people can be certified as well. And it stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's been growing in the past few years. There are 3,935 people in Ohio, professionals to students that have some sort of training or certification in LEED design. So it's really becoming quite commonplace. In terms of projects, there are over 1,000 projects in Ohio that are, and these are construction projects that are registered for LEED certification. And some of the things that are taken into account are the site that's used for the project, whether it's redevelopment or new development of new areas. Sort of if water use is being addressed in the design of the project. Energy efficiency is another measure that's taken into account, as well as indoor air environment quality, so air quality for the employees that would be in the building. In some places, they do this as a mandatory requirement that any city construction, to be clear, I'm not talking about this for any private development, but for any city or municipal buildings that would be constructed, which I don't know that we don't have any in the works right now. And who knows which of us will be around when we actually do have to do new construction. But I think it would be a proactive thing we could work on to make sure that in the future our construction practices are done sustainably. In some places it's not a requirement that the construction meet these certification levels. It's more of an encouragement and sort of a should instead of shall, and most of you know what I'm talking about with that, so that if there are cases where it's not easily applicable, then it wouldn't have to be the case. Some of the questions I'm looking at are building size. If it's a small building, it might not make sense. It might just be increased burden without much benefit to have to meet these guidelines. There are some alternatives out there. Energy Star has rating systems for how environmentally responsible new construction is, or serious renovations to different buildings. And so, like I said, this is really just the early stages. I'm going to be talking with a local architect that's LEED certified to get his take on it, and another one, a female actually. And so I'm going to be talking with a couple people locally that have been working on these types of projects, and just to see how they think it would fit, if they see any hurdles sort of what the cost benefit is. I think a lot of the items that are addressed here have a long-term payoff for a short-term investment if it's a construction project. And we've seen with the perfection items that we've seen, it starts to pay back relatively quickly, measures like efficient lighting and heating and cooling systems. So I'd be happy if there's any immediate feedback. If not, I will be discussing this later. Chris?
I think that's exciting to hear this. I know that at Ohio University, I'm not sure if it's at all the state universities, but at Ohio University, future constructions on that campus will be required to have LEED certification.
Really?
Yes, so yes, the construction cost might be a little bit higher, but there are lots of things you can do for the different levels of LEED certification, and I think it would pay off in the long run for us to be thinking about that. So I commend you on starting research on it.
Well, thank you. Chris?
I'd like to point out there is a LEED certified building in town
There is, yeah.
on West Union.
It's the Athens Real Estate Company.
Yes. And I'd also like you to look at, when we refurbish buildings, because one of the best ways to save, energy efficiency and such is to refurbish and reuse and rededicate. So that I would like to be included. So, and I think this is really important because it may cost a little bit more upfront, but in the long run, as we have seen, especially I think in the future, when we're looking at probably increases in energy costs, that you save a tremendous amount, besides being more comfortable for people who are in the building. So, thank you.
I know the gentleman I work for, all the buildings that he has built in the last probably 5 years now, which are dormitories and healthcare facilities, every one of them is LEED certified.
Wow.
So it's not an unusual
No, it's becoming
thing anymore.
much more common every year.
I think it is a requirement that all the state-supported universities do require it, but it's just a thing to do now. It's easier to even get the financing arranged if you do it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on what Chris Fall said. I think the city of Athens is going to be doing a lot more renovation than they are new building, and so we need to look at how that fits into the planning for those kind of projects.
Thank you, Member Gosney. I just want to let you know that I do appreciate the dialogue and the conversation regarding LEED certification. I am aware of Oberlin College has a building on campus that was recently built and is LEED certified.
The gentleman I work for built that building.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. I wasn't aware of Ohio University's place in this, in the state university system. I wasn't aware of their work towards LEED certification, but I appreciate that we're having a dialogue and want to support future conversations and am interested and intrigued.
Thank you. Mayor?
No, it's all been said.
All right.
It's good enough. Good idea.
Okay, well, I'll continue researching the best way to put something together for this and bring that back. And I guess that's it for the Environment Committee, unless anyone else has anything that needs to be addressed.
Then on to Finance and Personnel. Committee Chair Jim Sands.
Mr. President, first of all, I think Member Bain said she had something she'd like to discuss.
I'd like to just maybe put some ideas in your head, much in the way of what's gone before us. One of the things that has happened is we have affordable health care as the law of the land, and it's been talked about a lot, and I think a lot of people really don't understand what's going on. So we sat in a meeting on Thursday and talked about what affordable health care, also known as Obamacare, will require of us on the 1st of January. And after I talked to a couple of people who profess to know absolutely nothing about it except that death panels and other sort of things that happened that were wrong, I thought maybe it would be good, and I actually researched it in the Chicago Tribune. I figure those guys, so conservative, they'll basically tell us what's going to be required. It's in the realm of preventive care, and then I asked Debbie to do a little research on this, because as we're starting to talk about this, I can see the timeline shortening. we're going off toward the first of the year. And on the first of the year, unless we are exempted, and I guess I don't know why we would want to be exempted from some of this preventive care. So take a look at the things that I'm going to note are the ones the Chicago Tribune said that we have to provide without a copay. Colorectal cancer screening for adults 50 and older, and those are 100% covered in our plan right now. So Debbie used her plan, the book that's 2 years old. So it's we've been ahead of the game, the curve. In non-network, of course, there's a penalty, but it's not so much an issue. Hepatitis B as well as tobacco counseling for pregnant women. There's nothing specific in our plan. Depression, we cover $550 in charge. Excuse me, I do not have emphysema. I just have an allergic reaction to some junk I was dealing with. And so we have 100% of covered charges after the deductible. That may be a place where there could be a change in the plan. Turn it over. And then we have HIV for adults at high risk. This is from the Chicago Tribune, basically, and obesity counseling for children and adults. So we don't know about that one. And children would qualify for more than 24 services, including vaccination for influenza, diphtheria, tetanus, and screenings for hearing and vision impairment and autism. Those are required by the Affordable Health Care law. And we have Well Child Care, which I think for at least 2 years has been on the books, maybe through. When did we hassle that one through? About 4 years ago? Yeah, where you cover almost everything for the child. And, we have a plan that was designed for adults, and we got that in a few years ago. And so we have that already, 100%. But we have the deductible there. Mammograms, anyway. The other thing is that there is a question. So we are pretty much up to speed with a few notable exceptions. And so I thought as we go forward and we start talking about insurance, it's good to know this. They also say that if you change a little bit, then you don't keep your exemption. So we're considered exempt right now in this. And my question is, why would we want to be exempt? Why wouldn't we go forward with these things? But you think about it, because we're going to have some time in the not-too-distant future to look at it. And then there are also information pieces about our plan that are there. I thought we were going to have a bigger discussion on that today, but we will eventually. So affordable health care is expanding on the 1st of January. For those people that I've talked to, know what the heck was going on. And we're going to have all existing, we're going to have coverage for care that is, what do we call it? What's the term? I just all of a sudden had a brain spasm. Preventive. Thank you. Preventive coverage. There it is. So that's what happens when you actually look up something online. You can figure this out. Now, if I could just figure out my washer doesn't spin, I'd be in better shape. But there it is. So you have some notion. Go back to Chicago Tribune. Just say affordable health care and preventive, and you'll find a host of items to do. Okay? So I'm through. Again. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes send me a page of that, so we're all on the same page.
I will be happy to.
Okay,
I asked Debbie, and I worked together on it. She did all the work, and I asked all the questions.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just
When
about
you get
what
a chance. You
Yeah,
don't
I'll
have to
just
do
give you
it.
my coffee. Okay.
Anything else for
Approved.
finance and personnel?
Just once again, the city of Athens is shown to be a very proactive
Progressive
administration.
is the word I like.
There's more information.
Well, yeah,
there about
okay.
it.
And, but we are,
already doing it.
the administration at all levels has taken upon itself to think about the people who work here and the people who visit our facilities and do right by them all. Mayor, I think you had something to add to this, or
For finance personnel?
finance and personnel?
Yes.
Bus money?
What?
Bus money.
Bus money, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Here's $10.
No, it's not that. The conversation, we got together with the auditor and Charlene about what we need for the rest of the year in terms of money. As it stands now, the conversation I had with the auditor was that we want to move about $100,000 from the general fund into the transit fund and appropriate, I think, $57,000 to cover the rest of the year on that. We will get reimbursed next year for bus, some capital money, The other fund that would, according to Ray, and Ray was in the conversation too, to make the auditors happy, the outside auditors, if we keep some money in the fund line, especially for the first 2 months. That's why that extra 43,000 would be in the transfer, but not the appropriation. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. Again, we will get reimbursed. You saw what I put out there last time, which is about, we were talking about 30,000, but again, that's what we won't get reimbursed for this time around. But we have to expect the fact we'll be spending at least 100,000 every year on our bus system. And that's the other thing is, of course, as the conversation is, we were talking about giving away some of those buses, light transit ones. We will probably not be able to do that because we need to recapture some of the money from our old buses. I think the only one we'd actually consider releasing for any nonprofit would be that, what they call the van, turtle top van, which is a small van. It's been released as well, and that was part of the ordinance that was done earlier this year. So really what we need is an appropriation, transfer about 157 appropriated. And that's all I really have to cover. Actually, I thought Kathy would explain it more, but she's not here, so.
And some is cash flow. but-
Cash flow issues, yes.
But the rest of it is that, and Charlene can explain this to you because she did to Chris and I, and she actually can present it to you in a way that you can understand it, but the way the state operates it, and who knows what happens next year, but we certainly can see that we're going to always pay more than they say we're going to pay, as long as we keep the system going, and I can't think of a reason not to. But in the future, the cash flow is especially problematic this year because of stimulus money for the buses, but next year, I mean, we have to be sure we're ready to spend 100 Gs, right? Or 120, somewhere in that
It'll
vicinity.
flux depending on gas charges and everything, what we get back from McDonald's.
And Charlene can explain it to you if you want to.
Yeah. And again, really what we're always getting is we're getting a reimbursement of a certain percentage of what it costs. And the trouble is, of course, they take out the fare box already, which is not a lot, take out the advertising, and then it comes down to a good contract, what we have with McDonald Transport at the time. And then how many hours you do it. Realize in many cases we've actually used hours, non-revenue hours, quite regularly for some activities, whether it's for events or something like that. We said, oh yeah, let these guys use the thing. Dump the pump day, for instance, we didn't charge any fare. It's not a lot of money, but when you start doing these various events of this nature, we said let's commandeer a bus for this good cause. Halloween actually should make money. That's $1, but that's actually a reduction from our fare because we're charging $1.50 now. But it came down to logistics of trying to have a bunch of people in costume trying to make change. It's quite possible they couldn't at that time, If you think of the costumes that are out there, some of them don't have...
Closed can of beer. $1 or a beer?
I don't know if we want to go there.
Okay, so we'll have this ordinance on next Monday.
Okay, and I don't know what else. Do you have anything else?
This is about buses.
Anyone who has a question or a comment about
Just a couple comments. I had a conversation recently with someone about our bus system, and I just wanted to point out we've done things recently to try to reduce costs, including we had to unfortunately cut some routes. Was this last year?
We shortened the route to Keystone Apartments out past towards Albany. That was a timing issue more than anything else.
That was more timing?
Yeah. Because what we do is we service now both Courtyard. They have their own bus system, but we have a loop going up in each direction. So we added a loop going up to Summit and Coates Run. Actually, we should revisit that because one of the reasons why we did that was anticipation of the roundabout construction too, to keep it on track. But that could be readjusted if need be. We could look at that. We're up for another contract, I'm sure.
And then the second thing is, we did have to increase rates, but it is an attempt to try to recoup some of the extra costs that we're faced with.
Yeah.
And I think in this conversation I had, the person I was speaking with was critical because he thought our bus system was getting too good. And I won't go into the details, but I think we have a responsibility to try to make it the best public transportation system we can, and I think we're doing that. So I just want to say I appreciate that.
To my mind, it could be, it costs money. Any improvement will cost money.
Hey, we want to be too good.
Well, the thing is, it's running about once an hour, $1.50 cost. We've got really three main routes. It goes from 7 to 7. except the Plains is even shortened. We could actually expand hours there if we had the money. It comes down to how much money we only have, we hit an upper limit somewhere with ODOT and the feds. So the question is, how much do we want to augment it ourselves? I anticipate sometime sooner or later we'll probably have to start talking about increasing the advertising, but it's not a lot of money. It never is. And again, there's always a desire. What I always hear is people out in the county saying, "Can't you give us a little bit of a bus route to someplace? Whether it's Nelsonville, Ainsville, something like that." I mean, technically, the Go bus will get you to Nelsonville. Actually, I was going to ask that question offline of what it costs to get a bus to Nelsonville. I mean, $10 is cheap to Columbus, but is it proportionally cheaper to go to Nelsonville?
Nelsonville is $55 right now.
Well, I would hope it'd be not just $10 all up and down the line there.
Tracks like that.
But that would be something to question. But again, public transit, I think, is a necessity for cities on some level. Otherwise, we just clog up our streets with cars.
And connectivity was much greater in 1982 in this city. I mean, we had the Greyhound bus, we had Amtrak, we had multiple other bus options, and they were all cut. Mm-hmm. And the consequence of that is what we have today, which is relative isolation. So now we're getting it back, but it's much more expensive.
And lots of cars.
And lots of cars. So obviously, that was not a very good move at that time.
No.
I went to, I'm on the board of Athens Foundation. They did a snapshot. They had a graduate student doing a snapshot of what the needs of the county are and everything like that. And you realize that there is a big need for transportation in the county, for medical purposes, for transportation purposes, but also for economic purposes. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I drive down East State Street and I see a lot of the foreign students walking with their packages down East State Street on a Sunday because they don't realize that they can't get on a bus. I was watching some woman with crutches going down the bike path, this Oriental woman going down the bike path with crutches. I saw her on Richland on the bike path. Half an hour later, I'm on East State Street, and I see her coming around the corner there, and it's like, whoa.
She'll get better quicker.
Yes, she will. But the fact is that there's a need for transportation. I know taxis are there, but they're not always affordable. They don't cover every place you need to go. I don't know what a cost to take a taxi up to Columbus would be. I imagine a chunk of money.
Well, the airport shuttle is $95.
Yeah.
One way.
Yeah. But, we have a good smattering of international students who do not have cars, do not have a license, and are not ready for one for quite some time. We have the Amish and Mennonite contingent, too, that use the service. I'll be interested to see what happens with all the new bus routes between here and Cincinnati and how they develop. And all the cities that get helped in between. Because now all of a sudden you have somebody parking there and saying, gee, I can get myself a pop while I'm waiting.
Don't forget the low-paid workers, nursing assistants that are trying to get to work at Hickory Creek can have an awful lot of difficulty. The bus route to Hickory Creek to be able to see somebody, a loved one, an elderly loved one by a spouse that's no longer able to drive is one that has been used a lot for years. I would see them every day getting off the bus and going in and visiting people and staying there through lunch and then coming back 2 hours later, that kind of thing. So there is no shortage of need on a lot of different economic scales.
And there is a diversion ability to take it off route if you call ahead and say, I need to get off the route to go someplace, yes. So we're flexible in that sense. We probably talked about enough.
Oh, well.
Any other comments, concerns right now?
I love this. This is fun.
I think no.